Welcome to the 1 Million Years of Joy podcast. I'm Dr. Andrea Benaker, your host, and my intention is to inspire you to find more joy in your life through the stories from our guests and the science on joy and purpose. I'm happy to introduce to you today Chad Gono, who is the CEO of Regal Plastic, a company that his grandfather started in 1971. His company has quadrupled in size in 6 years by focusing on prioritizing employee happiness and well-being. He graduated from Texas A&M University, and he lives in Dallas with his wife and 3 kids. So Chad, welcome. I'm delighted to have you here today.
Hi, how are you doing?
Great. So Chad, given the introduction that I've just shared with our audience about how you have quadrupled the size of the company that you've basically been leading in the last couple of years, tell us about the core insights that have allowed you to really so massively increase the company.
I think what it really comes down to is that, when I first got into the company in 2013, I've been here for about 10 years. We're a 53-year-old company now. And, it was one of those things where I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing about anything when I first started, right? I was just in inside sales for a couple of years. I pulled out of inside sales for 2 years because I had a mentor that was like, you need to stop thinking in terms of addition and you need to start thinking in terms of multiplication. And it really stuck with me. I was like, okay, I need to be the architect and start building something here rather than just be a self-producer. And when that occurred to me, it was really just this whole concept of like, okay, how are we going to go about doing business? I read a lot of Jim Collins' work. I got into a lot of Patrick Lencioni's work, and I had a lot of really great mentors that I just started soaking up, like different types of strategy. What are ways that go about running a business, basically? And what it came down to is like, man, I really just want to work with amazing people. Like, that's it. And if I do that, and if we create a place where we have all these just amazing people that are people that have this right attitude, that we can go out and we can probably accomplish and figure out all the little stuff that we need to go about doing, but we can probably have a lot of fun and achieve these great results. So it was just like, okay, let's go to work. When I first started, we probably had 100 employees, and over the course of those next 5 years, we transitioned the company. We had to let go of a lot of people. Even though it was a third generation business, there was a lot of people that, were in the company that didn't line up with our core values. They didn't line up with our purpose. We worked on those, over that 5-year period. We didn't have core values. We didn't have purpose. Again, third generation company, we just really had come to work and we just worked in this plastic distribution industry that we've been in. But there was no real reason on why are we doing this besides the profits or besides the top line. And so when we really got in and we really started looking at the purpose and finding out what that was in our core values, then it was evident to us like, man, a lot of these people don't line up with those. And what we did was, we got the wrong people off the bus, we got the right people on the bus, and then we worked on getting them in the right seats of the bus. And so it's a continuous thing, right? It never stops. But over the course of those 5 years, all I did was really I recruited. I just lived on LinkedIn. I lived on Indeed. And I just said, listen, I'm going to try to find amazing people. And I didn't know anything about anything. But one thing I knew is when they sat down in that chair in front of me, if there was an attitude or if there was not that attitude, because again, we were working on our core values. We hadn't fully defined them yet, but I just knew it was like, okay, that is somebody that I want to work with, because that positive, optimistic attitude right there is something that I need, that we need around us all the time. And so that's really what it was, is working on transitioning, getting all the people, to get all the people that were in the company that did not line up with those values, that didn't have the right attitude, they had to go. And we got in the people that did have the right attitude. And then we really just started to work on the company after that. So that was like kind of really that first starting phase, is it was just those 5 years of just saying, listen, I'm going to pull out of the company and all I'm going to work on is people. And I'm going to start building the team, and I'm going to start finding as many amazing people as I possibly can. And when we do that, then we'll start to actually work on the company. But I can't do anything before I get the right people on the bus. Got to get the right people in the company, and then we can actually go to work. So that was like the big part of it that I would say is like the first step is like, man, if you're going to ever start anything, a division or a branch or a company or anything, is like, man, you got to start with the people. You can't work on strategy. You can't work on anything else. Like, you've got to make sure, get the wrong people off the bus, get the right people on the bus, then start working on getting them in the right seat on the bus. And then you can actually go to work and work on the actual business.
I love what you're sharing here. And I was wondering if you can maybe share the specifics behind the purpose and the key values
Yeah.
that you have now articulated, please.
Yes. And so, our purpose is actually work doesn't have to suck. And then our values, all in and play to win, courageously candid, and then learn, improve, grow. Those are our three core values. And so those were big transitions. We read Gino Wickman's Traction. I read a lot of Jim Collins, like I said, and Jim Collins' work in Built to Last. He was just like, there was an obvious like concept where he was like, dude, these companies didn't go to work and start doing things because they liked the thing that they were doing. They really just said like, we want to do this thing together. And it's really for this like whole concept of like, I want to work with amazing people and I want to build something together. I don't really care what we're going to build. We'll figure that out along the way. But that was really like, that concept was there. And so we worked on our purpose for a long time. We knew we had to have a purpose. We didn't know what it was. We said, listen, if this is just about revenue and it's just about net income, and that's the only reason why we're here, then this is going to suck, because that's just a number. It's just literally a number on an income statement. Why do we exist that has nothing to do with the money or the bottom line or the top line? And like, we sell plastic. It's like industrial distribution plastic. It's not sexy. It's not anything that's like cool. Like, we're not doctors, we're not, saving people every single day. We're not teachers where we're, inspiring young children. It's like, dude, we're selling plastic. What do we do about that? Okay. We can't get past that. There's nothing cool about that. And so we worked on different iterations, but I think that the key is that as an organization, our leadership team would battle for years. Like, we went quarter after quarter with our coach. We have a coach that we meet with every single quarter, and we worked hard. We battled in these sessions on like, why do we exist? It wasn't just like, let's come up with something, guys. It was like, no, we have to come up with something that like we're passionate about. Like, this is something, there's nothing more important than this. Like, this is why we're here. It's not the money. And so it was this like passion that like all of us had, because again, we hired people to line up with the values. We worked them their way up through the company. We never hire the resume. We just hire the person. We worked them up. So that leadership team, we had people that were very passionate individuals. Well, we battled on this, and we battled all the time. And first it was like exist to improve, but we didn't love it, but it was just a placeholder because we knew we had to have something. And then one day we were in that meeting, and I remember our COO, Jacob Meidel, he was like, man, it's just like, work doesn't have to suck. And he just pounds his fist. And he was like, it's like, work doesn't have to suck, man. And we're like, dude, that's it. Like, that's it. Like, that's the reason why we exist, because work sucks for so many people. And we're sitting in that room and we're talking to each other, and we're like, every single one of us has had a horrible job, and every single one of us has had a horrible boss, and it affects the rest of your life. It affects when you go home. It affects your relationships with your spouse. It affects the relationship with your kids, your friends. When your job sucks and you spend a third of your life at a place that brings you down, it impacts life drastically. And we're like, dude, let's go to work on this. This is exactly right. Let's make sure that we focus everything on our people and making sure that our people every single day are genuinely like what they do. So we say it's a job. So it's not like, every single day you're just going to be on tens, but we're saying, okay, you genuinely love coming here. Love what you do, love who you do it with, feel like you have a voice, feel like you can make an impact, make good money, make a good living, and then have a lot of time off for family, friends, hobbies, the rest of the stuff in your life. And we're saying, okay, if we're doing those 6 things, and I could go in and talk about all the things that we do specifically to back up all 6 of those. We're saying, okay, people are going to come to work, and work is not going to suck for them if that's happening. And it can be a place that actually fills their cup and it doesn't drain them. And then they can actually go home and be the best version of themselves, because at work, they are encouraged to be the best version of themselves. We actually came up with this, and then we said, okay, most companies more than likely, if they do have a purpose or they do have values, Andrea, then what they're going to do is it's just going to be a plaque that's on the restroom wall, like on the way to the bathroom, right? It's a plaque on the wall on the way to the restroom. It's not actually going to mean anything. And so we were like, okay, our values have to mean something. Our purpose has to mean something. How do we make that real? Because we were authentic. You have to be authentic about it. And we're like, okay, we're going to create stories. Our 10-year goal at the company, what we did was to make it real was we changed the 10-year goal at our company. And we said, okay, in 10 years, instead of some revenue number, instead of some arbitrary revenue number, in 10 years, we want to hit $150 million. We said, we're going to scratch that number. Who cares? What we're going to try to do is we're going to say, okay, in 10 years, we want to create 500 stories. That's where we put our money where our mouth is. We don't just talk the talk, but we're going to walk the walk, because we're going to say as an organization, our primary goal in 10 years is not to hit $150 million in revenue. It's to create 500 stories. And you're like, okay, Andrew, you're like, Chad, what does that mean? What is a story? And it's like, a story to us is, it can be many things, but it is us impacting a life using the resources of the organization to do something for an employee with a specific story that is very concrete. Meaning, like, Kenneth was on his way to work and he called in and, he was like, dude, I got a flat tire. I can't make it to work. I'm at Discount Tire, and they're telling me all these are bald and I need tires. Can you guys maybe, come and pick me up? And he called Darcy, who is the operations manager, and Kevin Darcy, operations manager, talked to the branch manager, and our branch manager was like, Kevin, just buy him new tires. And Darcy, what do you mean just buy him new tires? He's like, yeah, take out the company credit card and buy the guy some new tires. And so he did. That's a story, right? But then I've got a binder in my backpack and this chair over here that has like intimate stories of our employees that are writing emails saying, like, I was a different person. I was miserable with my job and it impacted me negatively. I was a bad spouse and I came here to Regal Plastics. The only thing I did was switch my job. And now I love who I am because of this place, because of the people in this place, right? A company is not a name, a stupid name. Regal Plastics means nothing. Like, I really wish the name of the company could just be like all of our employees' names, because, right, it's just the people that make up the company. I mean, that's truly what it is. And it's like, because of the people that I get to work with every single day that pour love into me at work, that listen to me, that are empathetic or compassionate to me when I'm going through something in my life, but also who challenge me, bosses who challenge me to do better, to hit those numbers and hold me accountable, because I love those things. Like, all those things, like, this is such a place of team. This is such a place of encouragement and love, but also a place of accountability, which I love. All of those things together make me a much happier individual. And when I come in every single day, I notice that. And now when I leave work actually energized, not just dreading every second until I go back to work. And then I got to go do it again, and having the Sunday scaries that everybody talks about. And I've got a binder. And so, like, last year we created 54 stories. So we're like, okay, 10 years, 50 stories a year, we can do 500 stories. So you've got this impact from a deep personal level, but then you also have like something like, Stephen Thompson face in San Antonio. His mom passed away, and like Katie, our branch manager there, found out that he was like selling like plates of food, like old school selling plates of food to try to pay for this funeral, because he didn't have the money to pay for his own mother's funeral, Andrea. And so we were like, okay, Katie saw this. I had nothing to do with this. Our CEO had nothing to do with this. Nobody on the leadership team had anything to do with it. But Katie, the branch manager, who, by the way, gets bonused off of net income, took the $5,000 that he had on his GoFundMe page and just paid it off. That's a story, right? And so there's like, boom, I've already told you 3 stories here. We're like, this is the purpose of our organization. That at the end of the day, we can go home and we can say, dude, we built something great here, and we will hit that revenue number. And whatever that revenue number we'll hit, we'll be happy with. And it has continued to increase drastically every single year. We were a $13 million company when I got here. Now we're a $50 million company. Every single year, we've been up at least 12 to 15%, and most years have been 20%. So you see that this drives results, top line results, drives bottom line results. But in the end, what really matters most is you see our people being impacted by the atmosphere and the people that they're with every single day, and they're becoming better people, and they're happier, and they're putting more love into society because of it. And that's what work is really all about for us. And we think that if more companies did this, more companies made sure that work doesn't have to suck, this world would be better. And so that's really our rallying cry. It's my personal rallying cry. That's why I make all those LinkedIn videos. And so that is the purpose. And we are passionate about it. We battled about it for a long time, and we battled about what it means to us as a team. And so our team, our leadership team is completely aligned with this. It's not just me saying this. I talk to you about any of our leadership team, any of our branch managers, they're passionate about this stuff as well. So that's why it works. You get an organization all rowing in this direction, you create an impact, the numbers just kind of follow. And that's what's so cool about it. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but that's what I got on that one.
It's quite incredible what you've been able to create. And as you've mentioned, by having all these clear values that are just so human centric rather than profit centric, it just creates ultimately not only better and happier human beings that can enjoy their lives at work, but also outside of work. But ultimately, they also become your ambassadors outside of the office. And the question that comes to mind relates to the current struggles that we hear some companies talking about finding the right people and how difficult and challenging that is. So I imagine that for you, as a result of these ambassadors that are currently within your company, finding the right people, tell us a little bit more about that. Is finding the right people a challenge in today's market for you or not?
Once we got alignment on our values and our purpose, we say, is this person one of us? Right. And we're looking at the attitude only, right? When we threw away the resume and we said, of course, we're going to look and make sure that this person hasn't had 14 jobs in the last 2 years, because we know that person will only last like 2 months, and, it just doesn't make sense for us. And so after that, it doesn't matter what it is that the resume says. It doesn't matter if they went to college or not. It doesn't matter if they were a bartender. It doesn't matter what their last job was. It doesn't matter. We're industrial distribution. So you look at somebody, this was a third grade teacher, it doesn't matter. Are they one of us? The attitude. This person was in a school teaching third grade and now they want to be an outside sales representative. We don't look at the resume and say, okay, this person doesn't have experience as an outside sales representative, so they can't get this job here. That's not what we say. Andrea, that is not what we say. We get them in here, we sit them down, and we look at their attitude and we say, is this the right type of person for us in the organization? I will say that it is hard for us to find people that align with these values and this purpose, for sure. I'll say this. It takes a lot of patience, right? It takes a lot of patience whenever you know exactly what you're looking for and you're not just looking for anybody to fill that seat and it has to be the right person. You're going to go through a lot of interviews. Our interview process is a 4-interview process, and every single person on our executive leadership team hits it. Like after Olivia hits it, Olivia, our recruiter, hits it, and then somebody on the executive leadership team 3 times in a row. And we're asking completely different types of questions, but all those questions are all geared around attitude. Who is your role model? What motivates you? Tell me about, the most interesting thing that's not on your resume. I love to ask all these questions about purpose in their life. Have they thought about that? Like, get deep with people and really find out about them. When you do that and you start to learn about people besides the job and what they do, like literally, like, I do accounting, or I do, I call people 10 times there, whatever it is that they're saying that they're doing on the resume, you find out about the person, then you can see if that person is in alignment with who you are. Do they line up with our values? All in and play to win. Are they courageously candid? Are they learn, improve, grow? And so the questions that we ask, we're looking for alignment in all those 3 things. And then when I am on the interview, I sell them on the purpose and I explain to them what our purpose is. And we always say we're looking for people that lean forward, right? They're excited about that person, their purpose. They're saying, yes, I want to be a part of Work Doesn't Have to Suck. Like, I want to be a part of this organization, because we always say the next hire is the most important hire, no matter what the position is, because that person can add to the culture, right? You can add to the culture in all positions. So you have to look for that, but it is difficult, but when you know, you know. And so it definitely takes patience. And I did a LinkedIn post on this where I was like, when you build your company based on values and purpose and culture, it is absolutely difficult. It is the long road. It requires a ton of patience, but you're doing it the right way. And what happens is you're built to last over time. And all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, people aren't leaving this organization. I think we've had 3 people leave in the last like 3 years. Like people don't leave this organization because we make sure we find an alignment with the values and a belief in the purpose. When they get here, it just makes a lot of sense. And then you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, look at all these people that are actually like, they're really good friends with the people that they work with, like hanging out on the weekends, hanging out with their families. And like they develop these long friendships, like these deep friendships on love. And it's like, oh my gosh, look at what is going on here at work, where people are like, man, I don't even like my coworkers. It's just a job. When I go home, then I get to be with my family and my real friends. But that's not here. People are friends. They genuinely like each other. And you see that bond that only helps the business, but that also helps in terms of like, okay, they are going to refer other people. Hey, I know somebody. I have a friend that is one of us, right? And then we've had many instances where, you know, they still go through the 4 interview process, but referrals of friends, right? People that are saying like, I believe in this message. I want to be a part here. We just hired Jordan C. in Houston. Jordan C., his mother has seen a bunch of my LinkedIn posts, and she was like, he was getting out of college and she was like, you need to go look at this job. I don't know what you want to do, but go look at this company. Not because of the job and because of what it's required to do. If you want to be in sales, it's a sales job, but look at this company because what this guy is saying on LinkedIn, I believe in so much. And this is his mom, right? And so then you look at Jordan, and Jordan comes in, and there was an obvious alignment, complete alignment with the values and the purpose, because like that's what his mom believes. And then he's there and he comes in and it was a natural fit. He went through 4 interview process. We've been looking to fill that job, Andrea, since November 1st of last year. And he just started yesterday. That's how long sometimes it takes us to find these right people. But when you find them, they crush it and they don't leave.
So, question for you that relates to purpose. You've created such a strong organizational purpose. Do you contribute in any way in helping individuals find their life purpose?
You know, that's a great question. What we do on a regular basis that I think is so important is we sit down every quarter with each one of our employees. So every single employee that we have in the company meets with his or her boss off-site for 2 hours every single quarter. They talk about what's working and what's not working with the job, but they get to tap into that because that conversation is really only a one-on-one conversation, right? And so we do 3 things in the company that I think is really important, and I can get to that in a second. But I think the most important thing we do is we sit down one-on-one, and we have these conversations, and they're not performance reviews. It's like, I love you. I want to make sure that you're happy with your job, and I want to sit down and have this conversation with you about, hey, what's working, what's not working on your role? How are we doing on the core values? How is the purpose? Going back and forth, giving feedback. Those are those instances where people have come and they've really come out of their shell, and because it's one-on-one, right? A lot of times people are not going to talk freely in a group, you know, but one-on-one they will. And they'll said, you know, I'm really interested in starting my own podcast about blank. And we're like, great. Like, how can we support that? You know, and I remember Kevin Darcy saying he was really interested in just fitness. You know, he's an ex-football player, an ex-college athlete, and he's so passionate about health and fitness. We're like, great, what can we do to help you out? Well, he like started a little workout club like here in the Dallas office. And it was like things like that I think is important because you have to sit down one-on-one and actually get to know your employees to even be able to have that conversation about their purpose. But once you do that as their boss over the course of time, you know, you start to really learn about that individual and the things that they love, not only their hobbies, but like you start to go deep. And I know that a lot of those conversations that we've been able to have, right? It's not just a general, like, this is what we're doing as a company to help our people fulfill their purpose. It's like an individual, non-cookie cutter way about going about doing it, was we're going to sit down and we're going to have conversations every single quarter off site, and we're going to just talk. And it's not going to be a performance review. And during this time, I'm going to learn a whole lot about you. And as your boss, I can really help you accomplish your personal goals. Maybe your purpose is and your passion is to one day, you know, own a house on an acre, in, wherever it is, up in way North Dallas. It's like, okay, how do we go about helping you do that? And so I think that that's something that I know that we really find our quarterly conversations to be about one of the most valuable things that we do, because it gives us that very intimate time with our employees to find these things out and to work on them on a one-on-one basis. Obviously, with our individuals, like, we have an employee that says she really wants to live in Colorado. That is a passion of hers. And we wouldn't know that without these conversations, right? But now we know. And so we're like, okay, well, we have sights of opening up a Denver location. Well, who do you think is going to go work at that location and be a big part of that location when we open that branch, Andrea? It's going to be this employee, because she's let us know, that this is a big passion. This is a big purpose of hers. She wants to live in this area because it makes her so happy. And so I think that those things are the things that are so important. You have to be sitting down with your people, and you have to actually be like, and it's not like, okay, I'm checking boxes, like on some like report that is made for me, like person does a good job, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, we're just going to sit here and talk informally about you, about life. Let's go deep. It really helps us build that culture.
And with all these wonderful things that are happening within your company, tell us what brings you the most joy. You have 3 kids, a wife, you're very active, you have your own hobbies and things that you enjoy outside of work. So what really brings you the most joy in your life?
Somebody asked me that. Jose in Houston asked me the other day, and he was like, because I've been going around doing these interviews with our employees, and I've been asking them, why do you like your job, and what do you think are the most important attributes of a good boss? And I was driving around doing some content in our pergola roofing division with Jose and Nacho the other day, and Jose was like, what's your answer, Chad? Why do you like working here? And I was like, man, that's a good question. Let me think about that for a second. And when I thought about it, it was like, because I get to come to work every single day and work around people that I genuinely love and people that are genuinely like some of my best friends. And that makes me so freaking happy, because every single day I get to walk in to work and be around people that like I truly love. Like I love to work with, I know them. We hang out, like Kevin Darcy and his wife and my wife. We've gone out to dinner. We need to schedule another one. We've gone out to dinner, just the 4 of us, like 2 or 3 times, and gotten close, had deep conversations. That is what brings me so much joy, knowing that like when I come into work, you see other smiling faces that are at work that love this place. It's really just creating the atmosphere that we've created here. I know that brings me so much joy. So it's like twofold. It's like I personally get so much satisfaction out of being around like my best friends every single day, because I don't think a lot of people get to do that at work. And I can truly say that, like, it's like we're growing old together. I have seen these people just grow into the person they are now. Like I've got so many stories where I can sit here and I can talk about Jacob Basham, in 2014 at one point. He came to me one day in the cubicle. He's like, my girlfriend is at my dad's house. She's drunk and she's pounding on his front door right now. I got to go figure out what the heck is going on. It's like 9 a.m., right? Then I look at this guy that I love so much with my heart today. You look at this like 10 years later, he ends up going and marrying his high school sweetheart. They have 1 kid, then they have another kid, and I've never seen him happier. And I've seen him develop into the man that he is today. And he's one of my very best friends. And I remember who he was 10 years ago. We all have this story. I was the same way. I was a crazy person. And I think that that's just to show you that, like, dude, we're all growing old together, but we're growing old together at work. And when we're all like, this is one of my best friends. And every single day I get to come in every single day to work, and I get to talk to this person about not just work stuff, but just life stuff. And we know each other intimately. And so that makes me so happy, and it fills up my cup every single day, because we need that connection with human beings. We need that community with other human beings, and we're accomplishing these goals together. And I think that that's so special. But I think that the second part of that is just, I get so much out of walking into a location and you're saying, okay, this atmosphere is just an atmosphere where there's smiling going on, where people are high-fiving, where people are hugging, where people are honest with each other, where we're having hard conversations when we need to, but it's all out of love and it's all out of compassion. And there's a whole lot of empathy and kindness in the workplace, and it's not the other way around. And we're squashing egos. all of those things are going on, and you're creating this just organism in this culture where, yeah, like at the very beginning, we created this culture, but now the culture is kind of like theirs. Like our branches are all decentralized and they have made it their own thing. And so they all own and live the values and their purpose, but they do it in their own ways. And when you walk into these places and you're like, you guys are doing what? Like they were all bowling the other day for no reason other than they're just really good friends. There's like 13 of them going bowling and they're doing things together. And they're like, wait, you guys were all together this week? And they're like, yeah, we did date nights with our wives. And like, this is like, it makes you so happy. It brings you so much fulfillment to see so much love and so much joy because of the workplace, not despite the workplace. And I think that that's the thing that I would have to say, that just, I leave here, I've left here before, honestly, with tears in my eyes, just because of the way that it used to be versus the way it is now, and seeing the joy in the workplace. And it's hard to have a meaningful life without meaningful work. It's really hard to have meaningful work without working with people that you love, that you truly connect with and can go deep with. And that right there, that's the stuff that sometimes it brings water into my eyes, because you see the goodness in these people's lives and you see the joy and the happiness. And I think that's something that's so special, that, oh, by the way, the numbers continue to go up when this stuff is happening. And I think that's for the boardroom people and all the skeptical CEOs that think that culture and this whole thing about work doesn't have to suck is all a bunch of lame mumbo jumbo. It's like, no, when you actually do this, the numbers continue to increase on their own. And they've just done that here. And so you get twofold. You create a place of happiness, but you also create, a really cool organization that continues to beat its goals every single year. We're 13% up right now over last year, and our industry is down, and we continue to take market share from them. And we have employees that continue to create new avenues of revenue stream for us that this industry has never even seen before. And it's all just because of, they feel so comfortable in the culture. So that's it. I mean, there's so many things that I could talk about with it, but it's brought me to tears many times, just because the love that's in this place, and it makes me so freaking happy, honestly.
And you spoke about growing old and your young kids. As you grow old and they grow up into beautiful human beings, do you aspire that they would continue working with a company and building on this multi-generational business that has been founded by your grandfather?
I really, honestly, Andrea, I haven't really thought about it until you just asked me now, because they're so young. I've got a 1 year old, I've got a 3 year old, and I've got a 6 year old. So I'm in those days right now where it's physically exhausted. But I'm never going to put that pressure on my kids to ever go come run this company. My parents never put that pressure on me ever. I was never going to do this. I'm going to continue to let them live their life and do whatever it is that they want to do, and just support them in their dreams. And I'm just going to continue to put one foot after the other here, and our leadership team, and continue to try to build something special. We're not going to sell the company, because then what we would do, I mean, I always told people are like, hey, would you ever sell the company? And I was like, the only way I ever sell the company is if we just sold it and then just built it and bought another company and just took all the employees with us, because like, there's no way I'm leaving them. Like, it's not even an option, because then what would I do? Like, it's about that. But when I think about my children and stuff like that, it's just like, let them follow their dreams, go do whatever, travel, get out of the US and go travel the rest of the world and see it, and do what you need to do in your 20s and your 30s to just experience life, and then, if you're ever want to come work here, of course you can come work here, as long as you line up with our values and you believe in our purpose, right? But like, it's one of those things where I'll definitely always support them. And if they want to, they obviously can. But my parents never did that with me. And I think that was something that I really needed. I actually came to them and was like, hey, I think it's time. I want to try this whole family business out, because again, it wasn't necessarily, I never thought plastics was cool growing up. It was not any, and I still don't think it's cool, honestly. But it was just like, man, I think understanding what you can create so special with just a business filled with amazing people. And that's really what it's all about. So I won't ever want them or force them or persuade them to try to come to the business, unless they're ready one day way down the line. I'm definitely going to encourage them to travel a bunch, get out and see the world, and work for other people, experience things that a lot of us aren't able to experience, gain perspective. That's such a big deal, so that you can have empathy and compassion in your life by seeing what all these other people go through. And I think it's an important thing. And then, one day if you're ready, we can make it happen, I'm sure. It's not like I love Succession, the show on HBO. It's like, the kids all vying for the dad's throne. It's like, oh my gosh, that is a living hell.
So, final question, what would be 3 tips that you would give other leaders that have not necessarily gone in the same direction as you have for your company in order to make sure that work does not suck?
Well, the first thing I would say is, if you are starting anything out, and you're starting from the very beginning, just make sure that you get the right people on the bus. Just focus on people. Just focus on people, 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 making sure you get the right people on the bus first. And then when you get to that point, then you can go to work, because you can't do anything without the right people. It's just going to be absolutely pointless. I will say, for people that are running an organization now, that are in the midst of it right now, I think there's nothing more important than understanding that we live in a 90-day world, meaning we have to connect every 90 days with our employees. We have to connect every single 90 days as a leadership team. And then we have to connect every single 90 days as an organization. And what we do to do this is, every single 90 days, our leadership team meets to make sure that we are in alignment with our values and our purpose, and that we're on the same page on our goals, our big goals, our 10-year goals and our 3-year goals, but that we're also doing a good job on our 1-year goal this year. But we're making sure that we're coming together every 90 days and we're getting on the same page. And we have a coach that helps us out with that. And then at the same time, we have our branches and they have leadership teams, and they're doing the same thing, coming together every 90 days saying, are we good on our values? Are we good on our purpose? Are we good on our big goals, our 3-year goals? Are we good? Are we good? Are we good? Getting on the same page. Because what happens, Andrea, is we say break, and then this happens, right? You start to separate. You start to separate automatically as an organization. And then and then every 90 days you come back together and you do this. So we're doing that as an executive leadership level. We're doing it at a branch level, but we're also doing it every 90 days with our employees as well. And we're sitting down every 90 days, sitting down with every single one employee, making sure that we're on the same page. You need to be doing that as an organization. So that's the second thing I would say. And then the third thing I would just say is that understanding how much fun work can be whenever you focus on your people and you do have a purpose and a culture. It doesn't matter what your purpose is. It doesn't matter what your values are. Everybody's going to be completely different, but it needs to be real and it's authentic to you. Because if you don't have a purpose and you're just doing it just to make a lot of money, nobody gets inspired by that. I know you got to take care of the bills, and we understand that. But if you're going to really ever want to create anything special as an organization, you have to have the best people. And you have to understand that the best people, they're not motivated by money. They want to be inspired by something else that has nothing to do with money. I think this is very obvious because the Gallup poll that just came out is saying that money was like 3rd or 4th on the list behind, being inspired and being able to have work-life balance and feeling a sense of community and purpose at work. And so just understanding that this is not a joke. This is not the 50s and 60s anymore, where you just had a job and you got that job and you worked your way up the ladder and you worked for 40 years. It's not like that anymore. And, I think that I'd say is just how special it is when you do focus on people and you do focus on a purpose, how much fun it can be being around people with that alignment every single day, going to work as a team every single day, and how much joy it can be, how much joy in your life and how it can fill up your cup, and just how it's such a positive thing for this world, and that's what I would say, those 3 things.
Chad, it's been an immense pleasure to spend these moments with you here, and for all the wisdom you have shared for our audience. I wish you continued success, and thank you so much immensely for your time.
Thank you so much, Andrea.